Hey you guys, I'm the RPG Recusant, and welcome back to another episode of Final Fantasy 13. We're out of an artificial woods and into a real-life forest with Sazh and Vanille. I'll just let the little opening cutscene play, but oh my goodness, we have a lot of leveling to do, so I'll chat to you guys when we get to there.
So, where we headed?
Dunno.
You don't know? I thought you had somewhere in mind the way you took off.
I followed the smell.
What?
Smells nice. All naturey.
Just smells damp. And I think something bit me.
Hide!
Sky. Closest city that way is Palampolam. That is not good. I wonder if those two were caught in the net.
What do we do?
What do we do? Right now, what can we do?
Right. No choice. We run the other way.
Which would be to Nautilus.
As we set off, it was like he'd forgotten that I was still there.
So Lightning and Hope didn't get off as scot-free as they thought. But we got an achievement, so, you know, who cares really? So what's funny is that if you stand still long enough, the characters do kind of come back and be like, what's the hold up? So Sazh is like, wait, girl, are you coming? But before we go anywhere, we are going to level up, and we have over 7,000 CP to spend from those little bits of grinding. Like, you know, you don't really feel it when we were collecting it as Lightning and Hope, but then when you get these character moments where you transition over, and it's like, oh, there's actually a massive amount. And so here we are, not following my cardinal rule, but I kind of knew at this point we had enough, but like always rush to the roll level if you're kind of unsure, you know? And so we hop over to Medic. So since Saboteur, and look at this, sorry, I'm talking about Saboteur, but like she has Asuna and now the next level of Cure, which is Cura. So Asuna gets rid of status ailments like poison. And Cura is like an AoE heal, so it'll heal all party members a smaller amount. Or all party members, but it just takes more ATB charges to work. And there you see, I didn't get distracted by the different offshoots from the different spells. I just was like, get Vanille to level 2 Ravager. And we can worry about collecting the next bit of CP to get her other bits and pieces there. But we're now moving on to Sazh, and we're going to hop up through his synergist tree. And again, he's kind of the inverse of Hope. So where Hope was giving protection from fire, ice, things like that, Sazh is actually bestowing elemental damage to our basic attacks, and he gets an accessory. So that's kind of why I prioritize synergist there. It's like accessory slot I want. And that's pretty great. But then moving on to Ravager, he's learning more elements. But as you can see, certain people are just the spellcasters. Vanille and Hope definitely being the two that have the most spells, the most variety there. But we're after unlocking Blitz, and Blitz is incredibly powerful for Sazh, insofar as he did multiple hits per attack anyway, and now his blitz in terms of single targets is incredible because he just does a flurry of attack motions. And so against single targets, blitz is actually amazing for Sazh to use as a commando. And we're just looking through our new shops that we got. A new accessory shop, which again we're too dirt poor to buy in. But we can now buy organic components. So they'll become really useful going forward. And then we're just checking here. We've basically found every single basic weapon in the game. Like, we've owned all of them. And we're just giving Sazh that little bit of extra HP just to let him survive a bit better. We're having a look at our paradigms. And then we're setting off into a new adventure, guys. Maybe I'm just channeling my inner Vanille, but I just feel all the more peppy today. But we are fighting some angry tomatoes. And, you know, these guys you particularly need to Libra because they are completely immune to attacks. So only for the fact that we actually used Libra, Sazh would have went attack, 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 and they would have been actually immune and they would have been doing no damage. And if I'm going to be honest, looking back at this whole scenario now, we probably would have been better just having dual casting Ravengers because they're in fact weak to fire. Who would have thought plants being weak to fire? I know, it's such a novel concept. But maybe actually doing just, you know, all-out spell attacks, even if we don't get to stagger, would have been quicker. But, of course, if we ever want to get to stagger, we need a commando to be slowing down that stagger gauge. But this is pretty much going to be the kind of fights, you know. There's going to be tomatoes and there's going to be other natural wildlife. We're going to be getting a lot of natural components if we get any sort of components. But I mean, the graphics are stunning. I know people say it's a corridor, but I mean, damn if this corridor does not look good. This encounter here is like legitimately like so lame. It's just awful. I barely get in a Libra before a Blitz just obliterates all of them. And, you know, they're weak to magic as well. So it's one of those fights where it's like, you know, have some experience. If you're struggling, take some. But, you know, you're not going to struggle to 5-star. Yeah, Sazh is like, listen, we are going to definitely take some nice pretty scenery over anything else. And again, with a preemptive strike, I'm going to warn you, I try and get both of them in the one go here, and it just doesn't work out. If I had Fira, or Fira, however you want to say it, I might have been able to catch both of them in the AoE and actually stagger them both from a preemptive. But as it happens, like, this is basically the time in the game where I start learning, no, actually, we have AoE affecting spells, and auto battle will rarely, if ever, choose the really big spells for the Ravenger class, purely because they're like, well, your goal is to build stagger, therefore, you know, you want to be casting as many different spells as possible. And later on in Vanille's Crystarium, this episode, she unlocks Aurora, which is a massive AoE spell that takes up 3 whole ATB slots. So it's literally like her entire turn, you know? But it does a significant amount of damage that for the likes of the frogs or other kind of mob encounters, Aurora and Blitz can actually just, in the raw damage output alone, just KO large groups of enemies, since their strength is in numbers, not raw HP, you know? And so yeah, I just didn't see the point in keeping in multiple encounters of the same thing. It's like, yeah, there was a tomato and frogs, we've seen them, we can move on. I'm kind of only going to be leaving in, I suppose, fights that were interesting or fights that I kind of show off a different type of mechanic that I started to use, you know? And this being, okay, there's a group here, Aurora, let's have a look. And yeah, just a massive AoE spell that between Sazh's Blitz and, you know, attacks can really help deal with just numbers, you know. And as I say, if we weren't grinding, all of these little battles would be slowly building our way up to, you know, getting through our Crystarium. We don't really need to worry about that right now because, you know, we're basically finished it nearly. But at the same time, it's like, look, I could just be running by all these encounters, skipping everything, but then I wouldn't be actually showcasing, well, I wouldn't be showcasing, one, the definition of insanity, which is me trying to do the exact same thing I did the first time that failed, and thinking maybe, just maybe, we might get a different outcome, you know. But having said that, it's like, you know, we're leveling up, we're getting these different abilities, we're getting these different setups. Like, we may as well see the battles in motion. And like with the boss fight with Lightning, just because you have the max stats doesn't mean, you know, you're guaranteed a victory or anything. And so here we have Fira. So I didn't actually have it yet. But going forward, Fira, Aurora, Thundara, like I think Hope has Blizzara and stuff. Snow definitely probably have Blizzara. Like the AoE spells are actually quite useful just for like raw damage potential alone. And then again, yeah, we're just in the last little bit there with Sazh. And just not having enough, like, oh, you know, 1 or 2 more battles, we should be grand. But right now, we get the most instantly equipable weapon of all time. The Belladonna Wand allows for an improved, like, chance of a Saboteur applying a debuff. And so, like, instantly Vanille's. Just, like, instantaneously hers. Because, as you saw, she now has Deprotect, D-Shell, Poison. So these new abilities are 100% going to be so useful. And like, the sooner they land, the better. And so here we have another. And I'm like, look, if you go auto battle, it'll just stack up all these individual commands. Whereas one big Aurora, huge damage. And you can actually go down to abilities and then hold the left cursor. And it'll actually repeat your last one, which means you don't have to go scrolling down to find the Aurora again. And like that, all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, 6 enemies. And it's like, oh my god, we 2-turned 6 enemies. So, super duper easy. And as much as I'd like to say, you know, we learned our lesson, what you can do is use your TP. And with Quake, you can actually stagger multiple different enemies if you're worried you're not going to be able to stagger them all. And at the very least, they're all staggered. And now look, Fira does AoE and does extra damage to staggered targets. So you'll see Fire does about 500 and then Fira like 1,400, which is basically, you know, way more than if I had just done 3 fires, you know? Oh, Sazh. But yeah, just make sure you don't go too quickly because you might be saying, oh my god, we got a new weapon for Vanille. Surely there wouldn't be another weapon for Sazh, like literally 10 seconds away. But there is, and his is also a really good passive ability. It's called Stagger Maintenance, which basically means while enemies are staggered, they stagger more slowly. So, you know, gonna want that for our boss fights, you know? So again, they're just a really, I suppose, it's really honing in on what these characters are good at. And it's basically, right, Sazh can be there for the damage to make sure they stay staggered, and Vanille's going to be debuffing them so you can be doing the maximum amount of damage while they're staggered. And again, we just have more of these little guys. And again, we're going to just have fun making little tornadoes. So the only real thing is to try and pick the most centralized one. And once you do that, they'll all get hit with the AoE damage. They'll all be hit with the blitz. And then Sazh can just finish them off. And no more is this more apparent than this kind of extra challenging, you know, circle of penguin things.
No daydreaming now.
And so another Aurora, and we should see all of these gone, or nearly all of them. And it's just going to show the difference in not relying totally on auto battle. Auto battle for group kind of areas, it won't be the most ideal situation. And we're after getting another doctor's code. Those help increase the potency of potions, so obviously they can only be equipped by the party leader because AI won't use potions. But we're about to hit a cutscene, and that's going to be our episode. So I'll let the cutscene play, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Have a good one. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Sazh. Tell me about yourself.
Huh?
Any family?
I have a little boy.
Oh, so you're married?
I was, yeah.
We gotta get you home. Your son needs you. Come on, we'll make it.
It's too late.
Is it the Lassie thing?
How'd you...
You might be a Lassie, but you're still a daddy.
You're right.
So, what's his name?
Dodge.
Hey, Dad.
Making a wish, huh? What'd you wish for?
Well, you're never happy. You never smile. So here's what I wished. I wish that you'd cheer up and be like your old self again.
How about that?
Whoa.
Your wish came true.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, it's my turn to wish.
What for, Dad?
That's my little secret.
Sazh?
Huh?
You alright?
Oh, yeah.
Come on, Pops. You really got to keep it together, okay? Now, let's go.
Now I got kids looking out for me. Some dad I am.
Make my wish come